Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul. In this video we're breaking down The Walking Dead. Rick and Michonne are spending some quality grimes together after hitting the road last week. The love nest had come crumbling down due to the actions of the CRM, and Michonne's now realised the truth of the matter.
This can't end with us going home.
Throughout this video we're going to be breaking it all down and going over where we think things are going to go. Heavy spoilers ahead, and I know we release these after they drop on AMC+, so if you're waiting for the TV release you might want to not watch this. Please hit the thumbs up button if you do though, and make sure you subscribe to not miss the finale. With out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into The Walking Dead. Now the big thing that happens in this episode is of course the death of Jadis. She's been a really complicated, morally grey character, and I felt like this was a pretty fitting send-off. I believe the name Jadis comes from the Chronicles of Narnia, wherein that was the name of the White Witch. Jadis had this real spooky aura about her, and she has walked the line between good and bad. We know her real name's Anne, and she kinda does bring out that softer side to her. Not only does she sort of redeem herself by telling Rick and Michonne where they can find the file, but we also see several things from her past. It sort of feels like a trip down memory lane, and we get flashbacks to her origins amongst the scavengers, and we also see her killing Huck. This comes from the world beyond, and was a pretty big moment in that show. In addition to that, we have the paintings that she did at Hilltop, which showed her softer side. This is something we really got to see with Gabriel, who's a big character that also returns for the episode. We discover that the pair have been meeting every year, with her essentially going there to confess to him. However, in the end, she always returns to her duty and plays dumb that Rick's in fact alive. This situation reminded me a lot of the Sandman, and in that they had dream meeting with an immortal every 100 years. Yeah, obviously the scale's not that big yet, but it still shows that she's yearning for a real connection. To me, she represents what the CRM costs and how you have to give up everything. She's quite a tragic figure, as she dies not ever really getting back to Gabriel. Kinda heartbreaking seeing Gabriel going to their yearly meeting, only to see that she doesn't turn up. I think this has a much deeper meaning to it, and basically represents what could have happened with Rick. I could have easily seen something similar happening with him and Michonne if she hadn't returned after ditching his escape plan. We are meant to feel like this is a massive tragedy, and it keeps up a thematic story of people giving up the ones they love. I did say earlier in one of our breakdowns that I thought this was not really The Ones Who Live, and the title in fact should be The Ones Who Love. You see, well, why that is because Okafor ended up killing his wife, and Thorne left her man out in the world. Jadis has refused to go with Gabriel as well, and Rick and Michonne, they're the only ones who really love each other enough to break free of that duty. Might be a reach there, but we're gonna get into it all, and yeah, I'd obviously love to hear your thoughts on the thematic elements of the show. Now we begin with Gabriel walking through the forest, which to me represents the Valley of the Shadow of Death. He rocks a black hood like the Grim Reaper, and also carries a long sharp object. It's a reach, but there's also lots of other religious allusions here, with the sound of helicopters crackling from the sky. They're almost like the eye of God or an angel looking down on those below. I've also just realised for the first time in many years that Gabriel is of course named after an angel. Now we could have Michonne and Rick rocking The Good Life by Tony Bennett as the lovers live life on the road. Hitting the last of the Old West in Wyoming, they eat around the campfire, conjuring the imagery of the campfires in episode 2. That entry leaned heavily into the feel of old westerns, with there being caravans that the group even referred to as wagons. Horses were also used heavily, and the soundtrack itself was inspired by westerns too. Now last week we said Rick can't drive stick, and as many of you pointed out, that's for a good reason. I just didn't bother bringing it up on the last video because I thought it was obvious, but it's because Rick has lost his hand. See kids, that's called gaslighting. I knew it all along, and it's not because I'm an idiot, mate. It's not because I'm an idiot, and if you mention it, yeah, I'm gonna kill you.
You want to make today your last day on Earth?
Now we also see that Michonne has the rebar from last week, and Rick looks longingly at the picture of Carl on his phone as a reminder of what he's surviving for. This also leads into him picking out nameplates for Junior, highlighting how he also wants to put focus on the future. Out in the woods, they then talk about Thorne, who in many ways represents the opposite to Rick. The CRM is somewhere that people have to let go, and this is why Rick never really fit in. Thorne, however, did, and that's why she's kind of the perfect opposite to Rick. As the pair pass the ranger station sign, we also get a sign that foreshadows what's to come. That says, protect the park from the people from the park, and the people from the people. Amongst the woods, they find calcified walkers and a group of 3 survivors that end up turning their guns on them. They protected the walkers from getting the people, but the people's nature is to turn on other people. That's even with next to no bullets, which we see when Rick empties their revolver. I feel like this also highlights the mind state of the CRM and how they will help where they can, but no, humanity can't really be trusted. This is why they have such strict rules and protect themselves by killing those that try to escape. Even if you're loyal to them on every level like Jadis is, if they find out you've got someone out there that isn't part of them, they're gonna start killing them. Therefore, they're controlling by fear, and this shows that they aren't really the good guys, even if they claim to be. Rick and Michonne asks them to promise to not do this to others again, and it shows that they're trying to transform the world in other ways. However, the group end up turning against them, and they aid Jadis in trying to get them. Honestly though, I think they're some of the weakest survivors we've ever met, and after seeing how good Nat was, I was expecting a bit more. Kind of feels like they're just there to even the odds a bit, and they prove to be pretty much there to show the CRM will use people. I feel like the CRM have their own way of changing things too, and that takes us into Theory Grimes. So huge shout out to Tom Coates on Twitter for talking about what he thinks is going on with the gas. Tom said that he thinks the CRM have found a way to kill both the living and the dead by using it. We know that they were working on it in the world beyond, and that they've been experimenting on the dead. Tom said that he thinks that's the big project they're talking about, and their goal is to reclaim the whole continent coast to coast. He said that's why he thinks the series is called The Ones Who Live, as it's going to be about the ones who live. I think that makes a lot of sense too, and when I've been discussing the cure, people have been like, "You fucking dickhead, mate, they're already dead. A cure can't work." So what I've meant, mate, is that everyone transforms into a walker upon dying. This then causes a lot of issues, and it's something we saw massively during episode 2. The group ended up taking shelter in the mall, however, one of them was at death's door. Michonne said,
They'll fall asleep next door.
And then she returned later to find the guy had ignored her. This meant that all the others got attacked probably while they slept too, and in the end it just left Nat. So that shows how dangerous people turning can be, and I think the cure is going to be something that stops that from happening. Obviously, let me know your thoughts below, but it'll stop creating walkers, which is the only way to truly make them extinct. Anyway, that's in a Theory Grime. Now, I always try to look into the deeper meaning in this stuff, and to me, this episode comes across as another trap that the pair have to escape from. They head back to the cabin, but end up getting found by Jadis, and they're forced to tie themselves up in a kinky little maneuver. Rick in episode 1 was like an animal in a trap, and in the wild, animals often bite off their own limbs in order to escape. However, he wasn't able to flee the CRM until Michonne managed to find him. Her trap was escaping the mall, in which she had to build her strength back up. The next trap was escaping the CRM, which then led into Rick refusing to leave the skyscraper. It was only upon Michonne being trapped under the light that the pair finally united and got their way out. This trap is another thing they have to break free from, with traps being both mental and physical ones. The mental one was shown with Rick believing he had to go back, but it was just him being in his own way. For Jadis, we know she's desperate to escape her trap and be with Gabriel, but she'd rather remain a prisoner. Every year she thinks about being back with him, and it's the one day of the year that she truly feels human. She says that she sacrifices things for the CRM because they're going to help the world, but the second she gets a chance to do something charitable, she says that she can't. Helping people can be done as simply as coming across strangers in the woods, or feeding the starving kids that Gabriel brings up. She only wants to do things on the scale of the world though, and would rather remain with the CRM as it gives a safety blanket that keeps her away from the day-to-day. The CRM could really put their efforts into using the military to protect who's left out in the wild, but they'd rather stay insulated and keep it to themselves. This is something that Rick almost fell victim to because the CRM provided him with a level of security. It's a really interesting way to take things, and I loved seeing her as an antagonist, but also someone that had a deeper layer to her. What we have is two sides to the character, with them being represented in her either being Anne or Jadis. She says it's between keeping her humanity or saving humanity, with it initially seeming like the latter wins out for her. However, it's revealed that she did keep part of her humanity, but it's the denial of this that causes the issues. In the end, it costs the character everything, and it's a great way of showing why Rick shouldn't walk this path. We end with her gravestone, which has an A on it, which to me symbolises Anne. However, it could also sum up the A and B structure that exists in the CRM. A's aren't thought to be people that will lead them to glory, and this is something that Rick and Michonne are. So this shows that she's found some redemption, and it's a really cool way to send off the character. A lot of the scenes with her and Gabriel also remind me a lot of the ones Rick had in his visions, where he ended up sitting down with Michonne. Now Jadis sussed out that Rick and Michonne lived because she was probably playing Yellow Car and then went back later and realised it was missing. Following the rappers up the street, she managed to track them down, and after holding them at gunpoint they managed to escape. leads to a big car chase and walkers getting smashed like the like button before they run off the road and have to head out on foot. Eventually catching up to her, they're lured into a trap with Jadis uttering the phrase, "People are a resource." Now, this phrase has appeared throughout The Walking Dead, and the first time I really remember it getting focused was during Dead City. That spin-off had an episode titled "People Are a Resource," and Negan revealed why it was something that the Saviors did. His enemies could be used and manipulated, with it also being said by Jadis in The Last Light. This is what she said when she traded Rick for life in the CRM, and it really shows they just view people as a means to an end. But I still think there's a side of her trying to be good, which we do see in the next meeting with Gabriel. If you pay attention to the colour schemes of her clothes, you'll also notice the blacks are slowly being pushed out. This is being replaced by the blue, with it becoming more apparent through each one of their meetings. Eventually though, it seems like she turns back to her old ways, and that the Jadis side wins out in the end. Rick plays into this idea that he's similar to her in this mind state, and that he'll too give up who he loves like she did with Gabriel. He and Michonne pretend to agree to a plan, and this will lead to him going to that echelon briefing. Love how Michonne says this can't end with them going home, but it's got a different level to it because she's saying what Jadis wants to hear, but also basically saying that they have to burn it all down. Now, we've been talking through the series about how there's this constant idea of fire. I think thematically, it's only really started hitting me that fire and its usage in the series is actually a sign of rebirth. Sort of like a phoenix from the flames, and Rick's story at the farm was something that really hammered it home. On a second watch, I picked it up throughout the season and realised that it's something we constantly see throughout. Now at the farm he talked about how his family had a bad crop and that his dad set fire to it. This allowed them to be saved the next year, and every time fire is used it shows a shift and then a rebuilding. For example, the bridge explosion for Rick was a rebirth that allowed him then to go on to his life at the CRM. Rick cut his hand off and cauterized it with fire, and then he later burned the phones with pictures of his family on them. Michonne then burned up in the vision, and it showed that he was starting again from a new point of view mentally. Fire allowed Michonne to reconnect with the Nomads, and it's also what brought the chopper down. She met Rick amongst the fires of the crash, and this then started a new phase for her at the CRM. She then flicked the ladder at the end of episode 2 and also set off an explosive before going away with Rick. The skyscraper last week was brought down by fire, and the logo from the trailer The Ones Who Live is also basked in fire as well. Now Rick gives himself up, but obviously
It's a trap!
you see that she also refused to shoot Gabriel as well, and this allows the 3 useless characters to finally have their use. Kind of feels like it was a bit of a cop-out, and I would have rather have seen Jadis go out without a Deus Ex Walker. Let me know below if you agree or disagree, but yeah, it does something that leads right into her death. Now, I do think the performance was pretty spot on though. I just think the build-up could have been handled a bit better. Pollyanna McIntosh does a brilliant job with the scene though, and yeah, as far as the send-off itself goes, I thought it was well done. Handing the wedding ring over so that Rick can propose to Michonne is also hopefully going to lead into a wedding I think we might see down the line. Would love to see the bridge had been completed in the years they've been away, and they can finally go and get married on it. Now Jadis finds some redemption and gives up the file as we get flashbacks to her time on the show. Doing this is going to save the people in Alexandria, but Michonne also says that she's going to bring it all down. The CRM isn't the answer, and once they get the echelon briefing, they're going to burn it to the ground. Now Rick ends up shooting Jadis, the pair take her chopper, and we close out with her gravestone with A labelled on it. Now next week we know they'll be returning to the CRM and are going to do what they can to tear it all down. We know that the heads are having a meeting and that they're all going to be in the same place at the same time. That has given the knowledge to Michonne to create explosives, and I'd love to see this started up by his lighter. I do wonder whether we're going to get a second season, because I feel like we do need to deal with the aftermath of this. I really do want to see Rick reunited with his family, but I don't know if they've got the time to do that next week and give us more than just him seeing his daughter and son right at the end of the episode. I kind of want to see their life after it, and maybe where they go after this. Also, yeah, haven't seen the trailer for the finale yet, but mate, we're going to be getting a sword fight with Beale and Michonne in it. We're going to get that. Anyway, that closes out the episode, and huge thank you for watching our breakdown. We will of course be back for the finale, and I hope to see you there too. Make sure you drop your thoughts below, and also don't forget to subscribe for videos like this every day. Please hit the thumbs up, and if you want to support the channel as a member of the Spoiler Society, then please click the join button. Get early access to videos every week, and it goes a massive way to helping us out at the channel. If you want to buy some merch as well, we've also got that right below the video, and we've got loads of tops there, mate. 3x one, so you love that. Got one for you there, and you look great. You look great wearing that on the street, so head below and pick one up. If you want something else to watch, you've got another Walking Dead breakdown on screen right now, so definitely head over there right after this. If you want some X-Men, we're also covering that as well, and Invincible too, so we've got your lockdown for all those big TV shows. By the way, huge thank you for sticking through the video. I've been your host Paul, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. You take care, peace.